Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be going through 12 balance changes, going through 12 new hypercharges as well, ranking them from the very worst all the way up to the very best, and going through a huge gadget rework. So you guys want to make sure you subscribe for all sneak peek future content, and of course update information as well, because there's so much changing in the meta, so many hypercharges to go through. So of course I've got you guys in terms of new update stuff. So let's jump through the balance changes, dive straight into it. Let's go through the buffs, starting off with Ollie. So he's receiving 2 buffs. Surprisingly, I thought he'd only receive 1. He's kind of been pretty balanced for a while, but again, a lot of people don't really enjoy playing him. So his main attack damage is going from 1,700 to 2,000, which is an 18% increase, which is substantial. He's going to feel really good, especially because his main attack projectile is quite slim and pretty hard to hit. So we're rewarding you, increasing it up to 2,000. And then with his super will no longer silence himself. It won't mute himself anymore. Instead, it'll deplete 50% of his maximum ammo. So I really like this change. Even though you're still at like a net negative when you like go in, it won't feel as clunky. Buff list, we have Meeples. So another one of the new brawlers. He's getting a reload speed decrease from 2 seconds to 1.9 seconds, so it's only a 5% buff, but I think Meeple does have really good potential. Like I said, in ranked, I've got a good win rate with him, so I think he'll be pretty underrated. Lastly, on the buff list, we have Ruffs. So his hypercharge stats, 2 of them are getting changed. So his damage and his shield boost, it was only 10%, now it's 15%, so this is only a small change. I really see this doing absolutely nothing for him. Now moving on to the nerfs, and there's 2 with Gus. So he's receiving a main attack damage nerf. It's gone from 2,240 to 2,160, so only a 4% damage nerf. I think before his buff a couple of months ago, a couple of updates ago, it was at 2,000, I believe, so it's kind of just in between there. I don't really mind this, and of course, because his damage relates to his Cookie Popper gadget, that's also going to decrease to 2,160 as well. Stu's receiving a nerf to his Gas Heal star power. It's going from 10% of your maximum HP to 8% of your maximum HP, which in numbers is 640 to 512. So that's actually a 100 decrease roughly in the amount that you're healing, especially paired with your hypercharge. I think it's a really good nerf because you could just spam your heal with the hypercharge and just infinitely heal. That's a 20% nerf as well. I think that's a really good nerf. Penny is receiving a nerf to her hypercharge rate. Before, it used to take 2.5 supers to get her hypercharge turret. Now it will take 3.3 supers to get it. So that's quite a substantial nerf to her hypercharge rate. That is 32%, because that hypercharge turret, it just feels unstoppable. So this will be pretty nice. Juju is receiving a super charge rate nerf. It's going from 5 earth shots to 6 earth shots, and then the other 2 elements taking 6 to 7 shots. So this is a 20% nerf to her super charge rate. I think it was definitely needed, but I still feel like she's still gonna be like one of the best brawlers in the game. Max is receiving a hypercharge rate and nerf. It's going from 2.5 supers to get your hypercharge to 2.9 or 3 roughly. So that's a 16% nerf, which is quite substantial. I think Max did get hypercharge a little bit too quickly. I still think it's the hypercharge mechanic itself which is making the hypercharge good, but it's a good change. Less hypercharges means there's more skill. So on the nerf list, we have Rico. So I know everybody is celebrating at this. I don't think it's a big enough nerf though, but at least it's a nerf. His hypercharge rate is going from 2.5 supers to 2.9 or around 3 supers, which is a 16% decrease in the amount of hypercharge that you can get in a game. I still feel like he's going to be a really annoying brawler in certain maps, but as well, maybe with his gadget cooldown hopefully being pretty high, he's going to be a lot weaker. For the balance changes, we have Lou. So his hypercharge rate is also getting nerfed, going from 2.5 supers to 3.3 supers. So this is a 32% nerf, which is really substantial. I like that they've changed this about Lou, because I like the reload speed buff. It's pretty good with him, because again, his main attack is really clunky. So nerfing this instead, he has one of the best hypercharges in the game. I really like this, but I still think he's going to be one of the better brawlers in the game. So now we're going to go through all the gadget cooldown changes. I'm going to go through every single rarity and give you guys the cooldown for them in a nice little graphic on your screen right here. So as you can see, there's a lot of numbers to really decipher. I recommend pausing and going through, just taking a look for yourself. In terms of most of these, I think they're pretty alright. The ones I'm concerned about, maybe the Rosa Grow Light. You know, it's going to be Snake Prairie probably with 10 seconds. Colt with his speed loader, 11 seconds. But the most of them feel alright. So now moving on to the super rare brawlers. Here are the gadget cooldowns on your screen right here. So again, not a lot of them really point out to me. I like that Dynamite Satchel Charge is 23 seconds. Really good. Maybe it should be longer. Also, Fidget Spinner could be shorter as well. In terms of ones, again, that I'm maybe worried about, that Jackie one being 10 seconds pneumatic booster, 10 seconds speed. Now moving into the epic brawlers, there's quite a few of these. So again, make sure to pause to take a look at things. So of course, Gus is sneaking his way into the epic rarity as well. So in terms of most of these, I think they're okay. Again, a couple of worrisome ones. BB 12 seconds to get the healing back is just insane. Maybe the Piper one should be a little bit longer. The rest of them, they feel all right. Moving on to the next slide. So with a lot of these, again, they feel all right to me for the most part. Gale, I don't know why his gadgets are so, especially jump pad, I don't know why they're so high. Again, I think Belle's nest egg could be a little bit longer. Ash's gadgets are really low as well. I'm pretty scared of that one. The rest of them, they look okay. Edgar takes a long time to get his gadgets, unfortunately for Edgar mains out there. And then the third slide right here. So a lot of these, again, they look pretty decent. I was actually scared of a lot of these. Again, I think the nice ones are like Berry, 17 seconds. So at least you can defeat him within that kind of 17-second period once he gets rid of that knockback. Again, you've got other ones like Bell, well, not Bell, sorry, you got like Lola with 17-second freeze frame. I don't know why that's so high, but the rest of these, they look okay. So now moving on to the mythic gadget cooldown brawlers. Of course, Shade and Meeple are working their way onto this graphic, but as you can see right here, here are a bunch of them. So in terms of ones, I don't really understand. Tara, 20 seconds. I guess I don't want to spam it on those bushier maps, maybe. I don't know. We also see like Shade's terrible gadget is actually just 11 seconds. It should just be like 2 seconds, to be honest. It's so bad. Meeple's got a really high cooldown on his gadgets. Somehow Sneaky Sneakers is the same cooldown as Phase Shifter. No idea how, because there couldn't be a bigger disbalance in these two gadgets. So, you know, one should be about 25 seconds and then Sneaky Sneakers should be about 10 seconds. Maybe we don't want to spam it too much. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. Now moving on to the second slide. So with a bunch of these gadgets, again, you know, you've got Luz both at 18 seconds, both pretty high. Same goes with Buzz as well. Same goes with Janet, which I kind of like. There's a few of the lower ones, for example, like Squeak's gadget. I think that could be underrated. Some pros actually like this gadget, so that damage boost and the extra range could be pretty nice. The rest of them are just a bit meh. Moving on to slide 3 then. So with a lot of these, you know, you got Gray. I was expecting a bit of a longer cooldown. 18 seconds could feel pretty nice with him as well. We got Miko. One of his gadgets, being the better one, Clipping Scream, I think it's called, is actually lower than Presto. No idea how. You've got Chuck with a 10-second cooldown on rerouting. I feel like that could be really nice for him and pretty underrated. Charlie at 18 seconds on her cooldown. You've got 22 seconds with Vanish. I think that needs to be bumped up. That is just way too short. And then Melody's got some decent gadgets as well. So a lot of nice changes. So now moving on to the legendary brawler gadget cooldowns. Of course, there's a couple of mythic brawlers in here, but here they are on the screen. So not really worried about a whole lot of them. Maybe I would like Juju's Elementalist to go up a little bit because it's so strong. I don't really understand Mo's gadgets because the one on the right, it breaks walls. Maybe they don't want the wall breaking ones to be so low in cooldown, but it's just such a terrible gadget. Nobody uses it. Same goes with Sandy's as well. How are both of these gadgets 18 seconds, by the way? Like Sleep Simulator is absolutely terrible because you don't want to stand still because you're so vulnerable. And then, of course, Sweet Dreams is one of the best gadgets in the game. So how? I just don't really understand that. And then, of course, you got like Crow's gadgets, pretty decent timings. I like most of these. Clone Projector could be underrated. I don't know. Going into slide number 2. So most of these, again, I'm pretty happy with. I'm happy that they've not put Chester's Candy Beans gadget to too low of a cooldown. I was like, it could be pretty spammy. 22 seconds on Draco's Last Stand gadget, which I pretty like. And then Kit with Cardboard Box should probably be a little bit higher. It's really good. And then most of these are alright, to be honest, except for maybe like Meg's Toolbox, because it's not really that good. So why is it 19 seconds? Maybe they don't want it just lasting forever on the field. But yeah, I like a lot of his changes, but let's go through a couple that I've noticed. I'm going to quickly summarize the shortest cooldowns, the longest cooldowns, and maybe some I feel like they need to tweak. So as you can see on the screen, again, this beautiful graphic, you can see all of the gadgets with the shortest cooldowns. So some of these should probably be a bit better. A lot of these are going to be the worst gadgets in the game. Some of them I'm surprised are down here. Again, for example, Jackie's Pneumatic Booster. How is that at 10 seconds? I have no idea. You've also got Stu's Wall Break, 11 seconds. That could be pretty toxic. You've got Rico's Bouncy Castle, could be pretty toxic. toxic as well. And Rotten Banana being 8 seconds. I know it's not the best gadget in the world, but that could be pretty good. And again, like a lot of these are pretty bad. Rosa, 10 seconds, could be pretty troublesome as well. Stomper, 10 seconds. Speed reloading, Colt. There's quite a few gadgets I'm concerned about, but it's not as bad as I thought. So now moving on to the gadgets with the highest cooldown. So most of these in theory should be the most toxic gadgets, the best gadgets in the game. Some of them I don't really agree with, but I can see the kind of angles. So you're gonna excuse me as well with the graphic because I did put Let's Fly on there twice, but Satchel Charge and Let's Fly, the highest cooldown gadgets in the game. They are probably the best gadgets in the game. Vanish as well up there last stand, so I'm really happy about that. Not too sure about Twister. I guess it's because it goes on the field for 10 seconds. That might be the reason why it's got such a big cooldown. Yeah, that's probably why. Honey Molasses, well, you see a lot of these totem gadgets having a long cooldown because in the past, if you guys remember, when they didn't decay health, they were really toxic. So you kind of got to have a long cooldown on those gadgets, even if they're not the best, because they could remain on the field forever. So that's why, like Watchtower, for example, that's why Stu's gadget, Honey Molasses, Bow Totem, etc., Lollipop Drop as well. All of these are pretty high. You've got Janet's as well. Again, most of these I would agree with, and I'm quite glad that a lot of these gadgets are above 20 seconds. Lastly, for the gadgets then, I've gone through a few gadgets which I think need tweaking because they're either just too short or too long in their cooldown duration. So as you can see, I've got BB's one, which should be a little bit high because that could be very spammy. Nest Egg as well, 15 seconds. You could have, what, like 6 of these slowing gadgets on the field in Bounty, which could be really toxic. You've also got Juju's gadget, needs a little bit longer because it's so good. Elementalist, Sweet Dreams should be 20 seconds. It's such a good gadget, one of the best in the game. Sleep Simulator, I don't know why it's 18 seconds. No idea whatsoever. Should be really far down. Pneumatic Booster is the one out of all of them. Absolutely must be changed. 10 seconds. For how fast you go, it should be 16 seconds. It should be even longer, to be honest, but I don't want it to be too harsh. And again, most of these are pretty accurate, I would say. Vanish should go up a little bit. I think some of the wall break gadgets should go up as well. I think there's going to be a lot of changes. I'd say pretty much every gadget should probably go up a couple of seconds, but I'm not too like worried at the moment. I mean, yeah, that's my final words. We'll see how this plays out. I'm going to be ranking all 12 new Hypercharges coming with the update. Some of these Hypercharges are going to be coming a little bit later on in the update, and 6 of them are going to be dropping when the update drops. So we're going to be ranking them. And first off, at number 12, unfortunately, we have Cole. So Cole's Hypercharge is called Flame Spin. So whenever he Hypercharge supers, he will drop a trail of fire, kind of like his old gadget, but it doesn't tick over time. So I just think this Hypercharge concept is just absolutely horrendous. So bad. The only good thing about it is that it takes 2 supers to get his Hypercharge super. So the stat boosts from it are really, really good. But the Hypercharge itself is just totally terrible. It's on level as like Pearl's Hypercharge, for example. So yeah, for that reason, it has to be rock bottom. Moving into the 11th best new Hypercharge coming out with the update, we have Mandy's Hypercharge. So it's called Sugar for All. It is literally just Mandy's mutation, and we all know just how horrible that mutation was. I guess I didn't want to break the game by making a Hypercharge super any different, but I still would have, because this is just horrible. The only good thing about it is the stat boost, because you'll be dealing a lot of damage with this Hypercharge super, so you'll be able to one-shot more brawlers in the game, and that's really about it. It takes 2.5 supers to get this Hypercharge, which is 10 hits, so you can get this pretty quickly. But yeah, the Hypercharge mechanic itself is just pretty boring and pretty bad. Now moving into the 10th best new Hypercharge coming to the update, we have Meg's Hypercharge, which is called Tungsten Toughness. So you get 2 uses out of this. So when you're going back into mech, you get a defensive shield, and then when you're in mech, when you use this Hypercharge super, you get a much bigger swipe. And to be honest, I just don't know how to really feel about this. It kind of feels a bit pathetic, to be honest. It doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, I guess it might be a little bit underrated because at least it increases your range and you could deal a lot of damage with that swipe, but still, Meg isn't the best. I guess the stat boosts are going to be pretty good, and it only takes 2.5 supers to get this Hypercharge, so you might be able to get it quite frequently, but I still just rather prefer one of the other new Hypercharges. It's still pretty good, but I was expecting something a little bit more fun. Now moving into the 9th best Hypercharge coming to the game, we have a Lola's Hypercharge called Inflated Ego. So with this Hypercharge Super, the Ego will have 5000 HP and deal 660 damage, which is actually 100 damage more than normal Lola, which is pretty good. But the biggest downside by far, which not many people talk about, is how long Hypercharges take to charge, and this takes 3.8 supers to charge, which I don't know whether you're going to get that a whole lot in the game. Also, 5k HP isn't on the exactly like broken side, especially if you don't use the shield gadget. It's going to get taken down pretty quickly, and still if you put the Hypercharge Super on top of yourself, you're not going to get all of those stat boosts. So you kind of like, you want to put this Hypercharge Super away from you to get the most benefit, but we all know that Lola's Super isn't good away from you, and it's just too fragile on its own, too awkward to use. So I don't know, it has potential. I think it could be good in some open maps on Hot Zone, but I don't think it's anything like game breaking. It's the 8th best new Hypercharge coming to the game. We have a Buster's Hypercharge called Plot Armor. So with his Hypercharge Super, he'll put out a shield that is 360 degrees. Of course, people can still shoot over it, so those throws can still hit him, but everything else, it'll just be deflected. So I like this idea. It's not anything like absolutely crazy busted, but it is pretty good, and especially because it takes 2.5 supers to charge this Hypercharge, so pretty fast. And then you've got to remember as well, he's got that supercharging circle, which will allow him to just chain Hypercharges really effectively. So I think Buster's always been like pretty much an A-tier Brawl in the meta. He's going to be even better. I'd be pretty scared of his Hypercharge. Now moving into the 7th best Hypercharge coming to the game, we have Grom's Hypercharge. So I'm just going to say pretty much all of these Hypercharges right now are just so good. This is a really good batch of them, and Grom's is no exception. It is very good. So his is called Grom Bomb, goes boom. So essentially it explodes twice, of course once in like a plus sign and then once in a cross sign, which again is very good because you get that Hypercharge damage boost. And if you hit the same person with, of course, 2 of the explosions, it's pretty much 8k damage, which is insane, absolutely crazy. So it's going to be some tech around it. I think for the most part you want to try and throw the super directly on them, so it's in the middle, and then you'll be able to hit both of them. But it takes 2.4 supers to get, so only 12 hits. I can feel this one being pretty underrated. Of course, the biggest downside is that Grom, it's pretty hard to hit his shots with, but against bad players, this is going to absolutely wreck the enemy team. So as the 6th best new Hypercharge coming to the game, we have Chester's Hypercharge. It's called Crunchy Chewy Gooey. So it combines 3 of his supers, not all of them, into one Hypercharge Super, and it's very good. So he's got the Dynamite Explosion, he's then got the Spray afterwards, and then the Mini Lose Super. So I think a couple of those aren't like the best supers, but all of them combined, especially as a throwable, is very good. And it also only takes 2.3 supers to charge this, so only 16 hits. I think this one could be very good. And Chester has kind of evaporated from the meta. He's around the DC tier, and now he'll probably return to his former glory around the AS tier, because this is such a fast charging Hypercharge, and I feel like people are going to heavily underrate it. This could be really good. Now moving into the 5 best new Hypercharges coming with the update. At number 5, we have Hank's Hypercharge. So I'm very excited, but also scared about this one, because the Hypercharge Super itself is pretty broken. So it's called Homing Fish Isles. So literally you pop your Hypercharge Super and it will home into the closest target, and it will pretty much directly hit them every single time. Of course, the biggest downside to this is maps with a lot of walls, it doesn't actually really home in that well to the target. But on a nice open map, which pretty much Hank is terrible on, but if you pair that with a healer, and of course he's got the tank trait, so you could just get abused for a long time. As long as you're getting healed up, farm your Hypercharge, and then your Hypercharge Super could potentially just team wipe, because it literally homes onto people without even thinking. Like, this has potential to be very scary. I mean, I'm excited for a Hank meta maybe, but at the same time, a Hank Super that you can't avoid. I don't know how to feel about this, guys. Moving into the 4th best new Hypercharge coming with the update, we have Bee's Hypercharge. So with this Hypercharge, it's called Protect the Queen. So it will spray out another wave of bees to slow down the opponent. So the range of this is actually pretty crazy. So we all know that Bee Slow is really toxic. So on those wide open maps, you can pretty much snipe them across the map with this slow, this Hypercharge Super, and then close the gap on them really easily. And the biggest thing for me about this, of course it charges pretty quickly, 2.5 supers, so only 10 hits, is the fact that you get this 25% damage boost, and of course pair that with her big sting, it's going to be, I think it's like 5.2k damage, which is absolutely busted. I'm scared about this one. B has been a pretty balanced brawler for a long time, but I can really see her being one of the best brawlers in the game with this new Hypercharge. It looks really good. Moving into the third best new Hypercharge coming to the game, it's a Bo's Hypercharge. It's called Catch a Bear. So with this Hypercharge, you put out 5 mines instead of 3, and it doesn't override the already existing mines on the map. So potentially you can have up to 8 mines on the map, which, just think about that aerial denial. Just think about the damage. Think about the map, how open it's going to be with all of those mines. It's pretty scary. Think about Bobby. He's never going to be able to dodge a mine in his life. He's probably going to ban Bo in competitive forever because of how good this Hypercharge is. So it takes 2.8 supers to get this Hypercharge super, so 25 hits, which is really, really good. I'm liking this. I think this will be one of the best Hypercharges in the game. It has potential to be broken, to be honest. It's very, very scary because he could just infinitely cycle his bow mines. Yeah, especially against noobs. Noobs hate bow mines, especially low down. That's why a lot of lower level players pick bow. It's going to be scary times out there for those hard stuck mythic players. Now moving into the second best new Hypercharge coming with the update, we have Sam's Hypercharge called Hyper Fist. So straight away, I think people are going to heavily underrate this one because Sam's not in the best spot, but this Hypercharge seems absolutely busted. As soon as you throw out your Hypercharge super and it hits somebody, you get it instantly back. So you just want to spam this like crazy. You'll be able to get team wipe after team wipe with this with ease, in my opinion. And I think it's a pretty fast charging Hypercharge. Of course, it's a little bit awkward to really know how to charge, because with Sam you can charge in 3 different ways, right? You've got his super hitting somebody, you've got his small punch when you're without your super, and then you've got your big punches with your super. So in total it takes 7 super hits, or it takes 25 small punches, or it takes 13 big punches. So after just testing it out against bots, I think you get this pretty quickly, one of the faster charging ones as well. So not only is it mechanically really busted, it also charges really fast as well. And of course, you've got the star power on top of that. Of course, if you're really weak in HP and you're just spamming out this Hypercharge super, kind of like a Stu Gasser heal, you're going to get a lot of HP back really quickly. So yeah, I think this is very broken. Now moving into the best new Hypercharge with the update, it is Mr. P's Hypercharge called Super Porters Assemble. And I'm very scared about this because previously in the past, Mr. P was the best brawler in the game and you just couldn't counter him. Anyways, it's really toxic. It takes 2.8 supers to fully charge up, so only 17 hits. And with his Hypercharge super, you get much stronger porters, you get faster porters, and you also have the ability with the Hypercharge super to have 2 porters out at the same time. So, well, like 2 of those robots coming out. So if it doesn't get destroyed within that brief amount of period, another one will just come out like 4 seconds later. And I'm very scared. As soon as it dies as well, it spawns immediately. This is very scary because you just put your Hypercharge turret really far back and you're just going to face infinite porters, literally infinite. So those single shot brawlers, you're not going to be able to move the entire game. I really think they should be nerfing this in some way. I mean, make it so it takes like 4 supers to get, because again, you're just going to be able to put this all the way back into spawn and it will never get destroyed. Yeah, Mr. P, he's going to be very meta. So for those few annoying Mr. P mains out there, rejoice for the update. Hopefully this gets emergency nerf because I don't want a Mr. P meta. So that's going to be it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think of all the changes in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.